I can't take care of both." Abandoned, she offered one of the twins to the millionaire. But he, New York, late January. The rain had started in the afternoon, but by nightfall it poured like the sky had broken open. The wind cut like knives, lashing at faces like the blows of fate. A city that never sleeps, yet tonight the streets of the West Side seemed to hold their breath, for a story was unfolding in one of its darkest corners. Outside a closed-down bakery beneath a battered awning, Leila Carter curled into herself. Her long hair, soaked, clung to her face. Her thin arms trembled as she cradled two tiny newborns to her chest. Twin baby boys, just a few weeks old, wrapped in tattered old blankets. No more tears, no strength left to cry. Only one thought looped through the mind of the 23-year-old girl. I can't raise them both. Not on my own. She glanced at a crumpled note, an address belonging to a woman who had once offered to adopt one of the babies. She had no other choice, not because she wanted to abandon them, but because she believed it was the only way one of them might have a better life. Leila looked down at her boys. Gail slept soundly. Hater whimpered softly. She kissed each forehead gently, pulled out two small cards with their names, and tucked them into the folds of their blankets. She was trembling, stretching out her arm to set one of them on the doorstep, when headlights washed over the awning. A sleek black Range Rover pulled up. The door opened. The sound of expensive shoes hitting puddles echoed in the silence. Nathan Bennett, dressed in a gray trench coat, stood still in the downpour. His dark hair was drenched, clinging to his forehead. The composed face, often calm in meetings, was now drawn with concern. His eyes took in the sight, an exhausted young woman, two shivering infants, and a decision no one should ever have to make. "What are you doing?" His voice was low, not judging, only filled with worry. Leila looked up. Her eyes were hollow but pleading. "I don't want to. I just can't care for both. I'm sorry." Nathan stepped closer. Without another word, he took off his coat and wrapped it around her, then gently picked up one of the babies. "No one's being separated tonight," he said softly, more to himself than to her. He turned to the car. "Marvin, help me get them inside. Call the doctor. Now." Marvin, the older chauffeur, got out quickly, asking nothing. He draped a second coat over Leila and covered the babies' heads with clean towels from the car. The vehicle sped off into the rain, leaving behind an empty step, where a family was nearly torn apart forever. No one spoke inside the car. Leila clutched one baby tightly, occasionally glancing at the man beside her, who hadn't asked her name, hadn't demanded an explanation. He had simply refused to let her give up. Outside, the rain kept falling. But inside, a quiet warmth began to spread, not from the heater, but from the presence of compassion, and a hope that had never dared to exist. The apartment sat on the 28th floor of a sleek high-rise overlooking the Hudson River. It was spacious but warm, with soft golden lights reflecting off abstract paintings on the walls. For a moment, Leila felt as if she had stepped into a world she had no business belonging to. Marvin opened the door, quick yet careful. Nathan entered first, gesturing for her to follow. Leila clutched her babies tighter, each step hesitant, as though she might break something too beautiful, too distant from her own reality. "You need a hot shower," Nathan said, not as a suggestion, but a gentle command. "First door on the left. I'll get things ready for the babies." Leila hesitated. Just a few seconds. Then she nodded. Perhaps it was his eyes. Not cold, not pitying, but filled with a certainty that made her want to trust. The bathroom was warm with steam. For the first time in weeks, she let water flow through her hair without fear of someone yelling or of being thrown out. When she changed, she found a clean pair of pajamas and a fresh towel left by Marvin, neatly folded by the sink. When she stepped out, she saw Nathan changing Heiter's diaper. Clumsy, but careful. Gail was already asleep, wrapped in clean blankets, lying like a tiny angel on the white leather couch. "This little one is brave," Nathan murmured, not looking up, almost as if speaking to himself. "And lucky." Leila didn't know if he meant the baby or her. She lowered her gaze, her lips trembling slightly. Marvin came in with 2 steaming bowls of ramen. "Not gourmet, but it's edible," he joked, trying to lighten the mood. Leila sat down, still holding Gail close. Each bite of warm noodles seemed to melt the frost clinging to her heart. Not because of the food, but because no one here was asking anything. They simply accepted her presence. She looked up at the stranger across from her, the man who had taken her in from the freezing steps, who hadn't demanded reasons to care. She didn't know why he was doing it, but in that moment, for the first time in months, Leila didn't feel entirely alone anymore. That night, after a simple but heartwarming meal, the apartment gradually settled into stillness. Gael and Hayter were fast asleep, each nestled in a crib Nathan had arranged to be delivered that very evening. Leila stood by the window, eyes drifting over the glowing city below. The skyscrapers stood like silent blocks of light, and she was still trying to understand how she had ended up here. In a luxurious apartment, cared for by a man she barely knew, with kindness that asked for nothing in return. Nathan approached, holding a small pale blue box in his hand. He hesitated, then handed it to her. "My mother gave this to me when I was 10, he said quietly. "She told me everyone has a moment when they feel like they're drifting in the water without knowing how to swim. And when that happens, remember, a boat is always waiting." Leila opened the box. Inside was a silver pendant, shaped like a tiny boat, delicate and beautifully crafted. She brushed her finger along its side, surprised by how warm it felt, not cold at all. "I can't accept this," she whispered, shaking her head. "It's not to keep," Nathan replied. "It's just to remind you you're not alone." Leila held the pendant to her chest. No more words were needed. None were spoken. Later, as she returned to the room, she paused beside the cribs. The babies slept peacefully, breathing in rhythm, their tiny hands occasionally curling as if clutching dreams. She sat beside Haytor, gently wrapping her fingers around his tiny hand. "I can't promise I'll get everything right," she whispered. "But I promise I'll try every single day. No matter what, I won't give up." "Shoo!" From the doorway, Nathan watched in silence. He didn't intrude. He just knew that in that moment, that simple promise was more powerful than any vow he'd ever heard. After placing Gail and Hayter in their little cribs, Leila was about to sit down when she heard Hayter's faint cry. Nathan had already stepped forward. He frowned, staring into the crib with the intense focus of a man about to pitch to investors. Except this time, it was just a newborn. "Looks like it's diaper time," he said, a little awkward. Leila let out a soft laugh, her voice still hoarse with exhaustion, but her eyes a little brighter. "Have you ever changed one before?" "Never, but I watched a tutorial earlier. Marvin sent it to me." Nathan raised his chin, confident but clearly nervous. "Well then," Leila said, stepping closer, "let's do it together. You take this side, I'll take the other." And so, under the soft lighting and the faint scent of baby powder, 2 strangers from different worlds began doing something utterly ordinary, changing diapers. Nathan fumbled with the tabs, folded the liner the wrong way, while Leila tried hard not to laugh. She gently corrected him, and for a brief second their fingers brushed, just a fleeting touch, but enough to make them both pause. "You're not bad at this," she said quietly. "Neither are you," he replied. They didn't look at each other, but both mouths curled into the faintest of smiles. It wasn't romantic, no declarations, just a small, real moment. The kind of moment that says, if something is going to begin, maybe. It already has. The morning sun streamed through the thin curtains, spilling warm golden light across the room. Leila slowly blinked awake. For the first time in months, she realized she had slept through the night. No restless dozing, no shivering on a street corner. Her twins were still peacefully asleep in their cribs, their breathing steady. On her chest, the tiny silver boat pendant rested, a sign that last night hadn't been a dream. The scent of fresh coffee pulled her into the present. As she stepped into the living area, she saw Nathan in a simple shirt, carefully preparing bottles for the twins, while Marvin busied himself over breakfast. The sight was disarmingly ordinary, yet it softened her heart. After breakfast, Nathan brought Gael and Hater over to her. He studied her for a moment before saying, "There's a place I want to take you and the boys today." Leila's brows knit with worry. Where? Somewhere most people think of as an ending, but it's really a beginning. An hour later, Nathan's SUV stopped in front of a modern glass and steel building. The sign at the gate made Leila's breath catch. Haven Center, Single Mother Support Program, a Grayson Group initiative. She gripped her hands tight, turning to him. You brought me here to give my babies away?" Nathan shook his head firmly. "No, I brought you here to show you you're not alone. I built this place after seeing too many women forced to choose between raising their children and surviving. Here, single mothers can learn a trade, receive training, even find work, and their children will be cared for under the same roof." Leila gazed at the building, at the women walking in with their children, at the small group of kids playing in the yard with volunteers. The air was warm, filled not with judgment, but with compassion. Her heart clenched. "Do I really deserve this? I have nothing. I'm just a woman left behind with 2 babies." Nathan placed a hand gently on her shoulder, his eyes steady. "You deserve it because you didn't abandon them. You chose the harder path and you kept going. Here, you won't have to fight alone anymore." Tears welled in Leila's eyes. Holding her babies close, she trembled and smiled at once. For the first time in months of darkness, she felt a true glimmer of light. Not just survival, but a chance to begin again. Leila sat quietly in the waiting room of the Haven Center, her eyes still carrying a trace of worry. Nathan had introduced her to a special initiative of his company, a program called Second Start. It was designed for women who had once been abandoned, who had fallen hard, yet still longed to begin again. Second Start isn't just job training, the center's coordinator explained. It's a place to rediscover yourself. Here, you'll learn a skill, but more importantly, you'll learn to believe in who you are. Leila nodded silently, her fingers tightening around the small silver boat pendant on her chest. On her first day, she met Rebecca, a woman in her 30s with neatly tied hair, bright eyes, and a voice full of encouragement. Rebecca was both an artist and an applied art instructor. "Well, when you carry pain inside," Rebecca smiled, placing a box of paints before her. "Let it flow out through color. Don't fear ugly, don't fear mistakes. Painting is how we talk with our wounds." At first, Leila only stared at the blank page, her hands trembling. But with Rebecca's patient guidance, shaky strokes slowly took shape. Intertwining lines, streaks of blue, gray, and white, storm colliding with light. Rebecca nodded approvingly. "See? Even in the dark there's a path. Your story deserves to be seen." Weeks later, Leila was assigned a practical project to design a printed fabric item. She chose a tote bag. That night, after the twins had fallen asleep, she sat at her desk, sketching carefully. And then, with every memory, every tear, every fragile hope, she wrote the words Nathan had once told her on that stormy night. Crossing is part of it. When the bag was finally printed, Leila held it in trembling hands. It was only a simple canvas tote, white background, bold blue letters, but to her, it was proof of a miracle. Her fingers traced the ink, her eyes blurring with tears. Her lips moved, whispering not just to herself, but to the long, dark nights behind her. "I did it." The small phrase filled the room softly, yet for Leila it was the loudest sound of victory, the very first triumph on her journey to begin again. The days at the Haven Center flowed by like a dream. Leila slowly found her smile again, her hands growing familiar with paintbrushes, and her first tote bag with the words, "Crossing is part of it," had become a quiet source of pride she carried everywhere. But peace never lasted long. Across the city, in a luxurious apartment, Bianca, Nathan's former lover, sat with Roger, Grayson Group's CFO. "The more they praise her, the further Nathan drifts from me," Bianca hissed, bitterness flashing in her eyes. Roger replied coldly, "Leave it to me. Discredit her, and everything will collapse." 2 weeks later, just as Leila was preparing for her next workshop, a fellow trainee rushed over, thrusting a phone into her hands. On the screen was a grainy video, spreading like wildfire across social media. A trembling female voice claimed, "She used to work at my company. I saw Leila forging signatures in the records. She took money and ran, leaving us with the debt." The footage was crudely edited with old documents, but convincing enough to make outsiders believe Leila had once been involved in fraud. Oh my God! Leila dropped the phone, her whole body trembling. Within hours, the comments exploded online. Half of the public defended her, insisting it was fabricated, but the other half attacked mercilessly. She's just playing the victim. And now she wants to be a role model for other women? Each line cut into her like a blade. Old memories surged back, the stormy night, the judgmental stares of strangers, the time she had begged for a little milk for her babies. Now she feared everything would shatter all over again. Clutching her twins tightly to her chest, she whispered in despair, "God, don't let them take my children. I can't lose everything again." A tear fell onto Gail's cheek, making him stir in his sleep. Looking at his tiny face, Leila felt her heart crack wide open, half yearning to collapse, half forcing herself to stay strong. The storm of rumors weighed heavily on Grayson Group. Journalists, investors, even employees were buzzing with speculation. Amid the mounting pressure, Nathan made what many considered a reckless decision. He called a public press conference. That morning, the hall was packed with reporters. Flashbulbs erupted as Nathan stepped onto the stage. He wore no lavish suit, only a plain white shirt with his tie loosely undone. Facing the sea of cameras, his voice was deep but steady. "In these past days, an innocent woman has been dragged into a storm of lies. Her name is Leila. She is the mother of 2 children and the bravest woman I have ever met. If someone deserves criticism, let it be me. I am the CEO. I hold the power. I carry the responsibility. But do not turn a young woman, simply because she has suffered hardships, into a scapegoat for your entertainment." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room, firm as if issuing a decree. "Let me be clear. Leila has committed no crime. Every accusation against her is fabricated, and if anyone still insists on attacking, then attack me, not her." Backstage, Leila stood silently, clutching the tote bag printed with "Crossing is part of it." Her hands trembled, and tears spilled down her cheeks, not from fear, but from the overwhelming truth that, for the first time in her life, someone was standing up to protect her. The hall fell silent for a few seconds. Then the flurry of camera shutters resumed. Some reporters nodded, others scribbled furiously. The press conference was streamed live, watched by thousands. On social media, the tone began to shift. "He's right. She doesn't deserve this. Respect to the CEO for defending her so firmly. Maybe we were too quick to judge?" When the conference ended, Nathan bowed briefly and stepped down. Backstage, Leila could no longer hold back. Her tears flowed freely. As he approached, she whispered through sobs, "You just gave me something no one ever has before, the belief that I am not alone." After the press conference, a fragile calm returned. The noise of rumors slowly faded, leaving space for something different to take root inside Leila. It wasn't just relief. It was the stirring of a feeling she had never dared to name. Nathan visited the Haven Center more often. No longer the image of a powerful CEO, he showed up like an ordinary man, rolling up his sleeves to mix formula, soothing Gail to sleep, or fumbling when Hater whimpered in the night. Leila often found herself laughing softly. A man, once gracing the cover of finance magazines, now struggling to button a baby's onesie. And strangely, in that clumsiness, she found a warmth she had never known before. One evening, after the twins had finally drifted off, Leila stepped onto the balcony. The night breeze carried the faint scent of blooming flowers. Nathan was already there, hands in his pockets, eyes distant. "I still think what I did was reckless," he murmured, referring to the press conference. Leila pressed her lips together. "Reckless. But it saved me." Silence stretched between them. Then their eyes met. Not CEO and struggling mother anymore, but two weary souls in need of a place to rest. Nathan took a step closer, then stopped. Leila drew in a sharp breath, her heart pounding wildly. "I don't know what this is," she whispered. "Is it love or just gratitude?" Nathan nodded slightly. "I'm afraid of that too, but—" He lifted his hand, hesitantly brushing a tear from her cheek. "All I know is, right now, I want to be near you." And then, as if the words themselves pushed them forward, Leila rose onto her toes. Their lips met, soft, trembling, unhurried. A first kiss, hesitant yet overflowing with feeling. No fireworks, no music, only racing heartbeats and the sense that the world had gone silent to witness it. When they pulled apart, Leila turned away, cheeks flushed in fear and embarrassment. "What if tomorrow I wake up and it was all just an illusion?" Nathan gave a gentle smile, his gaze tender. "Then we'll just begin again, one day at a time." Deep inside, they both knew a seed had been planted. And though they couldn't yet name it, it was sprouting quietly, among the scars and within their longing to be truly loved. The news struck like lightning. Leila received a summons to appear in preliminary court, facing an anonymous accusation that she was unfit to raise her children. Her whole body trembled as she held the paper. Memories flooded back, days of rejection, of being branded a burden, of being left out in the rain. The fear of losing her children was so overwhelming she collapsed onto the floor, clutching the little silver boat pendant at her chest. Nathan immediately called in the legal team. Marvin, brisk but steady, dropped a thick stack of files onto the table. "They think they can take her down with forged papers, but we're going to show them what real evidence looks like." Connie, the young company lawyer, added firmly, "Leila, remember this. No one has the right to take those boys away from a mother who has fought the way you have. No one." During the days of preparation, Leila was not alone. Rebecca, the art instructor, wrote a heartfelt letter. "In every drawing, I see Leila pouring all her love into her children. She is not only learning, she is teaching all of us what resilience looks like." Dr. Helena, the pediatrician, also submitted her testimony. "The twins are well cared for, developing on track. Their mother is always present, never missing a fever, never ignoring a single unusual breath." When the court date arrived, Leila entered with fear still lingering in her eyes, but behind her stood an entire team. Marvin carried the files, Connie whispered encouragement, and Nathan walked beside her like a wall of strength. The judge examined the documents presented by the prosecution. Marvin quickly pointed out, the signatures did not match Leila's handwriting, the dates coincided with the time she was hospitalized after childbirth, and the stamps were crudely forged. Connie rose, her voice clear. "This is not evidence, it is slander, and we have full medical records, pay slips, verification from the Second Start program, and Dr. Helena's testimony to prove the truth." The heavy atmosphere gave way to clarity. Each piece of false evidence was dismantled, each accusation unraveled into nothing. Leila sat there, hands still trembling, but inside, something shifted. For the first time, she no longer felt like an outcast. For the first time, she realized she had a network standing behind her. When the judge finally declared, "There is no basis to revoke custody," the case is dismissed, Leila's tears flowed, but this time they were tears of relief. Nathan placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "See? You're not alone anymore." Leila clasped his hand tightly, breathing deeply. Surrounded by allies, she whispered as if making a vow. "No matter how many storms come, I will stand. For my children, for this faith." The courtroom felt suffocating, every tap of the clerk's pen slicing deeper into Leila's dread. She sat there, hands cold, eyes fixed on the two empty seats, where Gael and Heiter might sit if the court decided to take them away. As the prosecution recited the accusations, Leila broke. Tears streamed down her face, her shoulders trembling. Only one thought pulsed through her mind. "They're going to take my children away." Nathan, seated beside her, saw her world collapsing in that moment. He drew a deep breath, then rose to his feet. "Your Honor," his voice rang firm yet sincere, "if necessary, I will petition for joint custody with Leila. I will take full responsibility to ensure she is never separated from these children." Gasps rippled through the room. Leila lifted her gaze to him, her vision blurred with tears, astonished that a man who had once been a stranger now stood boldly for her in front of the court. The judge sat silent for a long moment. He flipped through the records again, lingering on the letters from Dr. Helena, from Rebecca, from the Second Start program. Finally, his gaze rested on Leila, a young mother, trembling but unyielding, who had clung to her children even in her darkest night. At last, his calm voice filled the room. "After reviewing all evidence and testimonies, the court finds no grounds to revoke custody. Leila shall retain full rights to care for her children." Like a sudden wind, relief swept through the courtroom. Connie hugged the files tight. Marvin exhaled heavily. Rebecca wept openly. Leila collapsed forward, sobbing, but this time they were tears of release. Nathan bent down, gripping her hand firmly. "Do you hear that? You've won. The boys will never be taken from you." The room erupted, not only because of a verdict, but because they had witnessed the power of love, the love of a mother, and the love of a man willing to stand beside her before the entire world. That night, the city glittered below, the rooftop washed in cool evening breeze. Nathan led Leila there, away from the noise. He carried no roses, no music, only a small blue box in his hand. Leila gasped as he knelt on one knee, eyes solemn, yet warm. "I met you in the rain, when the world seemed to shut every door on you. Yet that storm became the moment you opened a door in my life. Leila, I don't want to walk with you only through storms. I want to anchor my life with you. Will you marry me?" Tears rolled down Leila's cheeks, tears of joy this time. She nodded, whispering softly, "Yes, I will." Nathan slipped a simple silver ring onto her finger. Above them, the stars seemed to shine brighter. The wedding took place at the community center, the very place that once sheltered Leila. It wasn't lavish. There were no chandeliers, only flowers, balloons, and faces glowing with happiness. Helena, in a soft blue dress, held one of the twins, laughing and crying at once. Rebecca busied herself decorating, hanging cloth banners printed with the words, "Crossing is part of it." Jusara arrived with a basket of food gathered by neighborhood mothers, while Dona Norina conducted a choir of children with grandmotherly pride. Then the doors opened. Leila appeared in a simple white dress, the silver boat pendant gleaming at her chest. Little Gail and Hyder, dressed in tiny suits, pushed a small flower cart, giggling all the way down the aisle. The hall erupted in applause and laughter. Nathan waited at the end of the aisle, heart pounding as if it were their first meeting. As Leila approached, their eyes locked, silently replaying the journey from that stormy night to this moment. The ceremony was simple, yet overflowing with love. When the officiant invited a declaration, Marvin strode up, raising his hand with a grin. "I'm the unofficial best man." The room filled with laughter, tears wiped away in joy. Nathan clasped Leila's hands, whispering, "I promise to face every storm with you. From now on, we are not just two people. We are a family." Leila's voice trembled as she replied, "And I promise to keep this home with you, for our children, for us." When they sealed their vows with a kiss under thunderous applause, everyone knew the story that began in darkness and rain had found its eternal light, the light of love and resilience. When the ceremony ended, no one seemed eager to leave. Warmth still lingered in the hall of the community center. Nathan reached for Leila's hand to lead her out, but she shook her head gently. "I want to say something." Her voice trembled, though her eyes glowed with resolve. She stepped forward, holding the microphone. Silence swept the room. Every face that had walked beside her, Rebecca, Helena, Jusara, Marvin, Donna Norina, and so many others, turned toward her. Leila drew a deep breath, fingers clutching the silver boat pendant at her chest. "There was a time I thought I had nothing but two hands and fear. I believed the road ahead was only darkness. But then I found a boat, and I learned that a boat means nothing alone. It needs others to row with you, and you all rowed with me." Her voice caught, but a smile spread across her lips. "You, my friends, my family, those who stood by me in my darkest hours, you rode with me. You showed me that storms don't last forever. That crossing is part of the journey. And today, I just want to say, thank you." The hall erupted in applause, as loud and bright as fireworks. Marvin shouted, "And I'm officially the best man from now on," making the whole crowd laugh through their tears. Leila turned to Nathan, whose hand was already waiting. Little Gail and Hayter toddled over, hugging her legs before looking up at their father. Together, the family stepped outside into the night, where the city shimmered in countless lights. On the rooftop, the breeze was gentle. Nathan wrapped his arm around Leila, while the twins giggled on the safe railing. Somewhere in the distance, fireworks blossomed against the dark sky. Leila clasped Nathan's hand, her eyes shining with hope. The silver boat pendant on her chest caught the city's glow, sparkling like a tiny lighthouse. "We'll keep going," she whispered. Nathan smiled, squeezing her hand. "And this time, we go together." 4 hands, 2 large, 2 small, linked as one, facing the city's night skyline. And so, the story that began in a storm closed in the light of a new family. Ahead, storms would surely come again. But now they would face them not with fear, but with joined hands and a shared heart.